All right, we're back. This is my argument for number 5 quarterback all time in the NFL. My number 5 quarterback all time in the NFL is Dan Marino. Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks ever in the history of football. He has the quickest release ever, and he is a very good quarterback. The reason I put him so low, though, is because he never won a Super Bowl. He was 0-1 in the Super Bowl, and in that Super Bowl, he wasn't really that good. He lost to Joe Montana and, the 49ers, but he only got there once. But the argument for Marino, he's second all-time in passing, second in completions, second in touchdowns, third in wins. He just got the job done time in, time out. His defense, he didn't really have playmakers, which I thought about putting him higher because of that, because he really never really had an elite receiver or running game, and he still threw for all these yards and touchdowns and still got his team to the playoffs quite a bit. He was 147 and 93 as a starter, but only 8 and 10 in the playoffs, and I think that's where it hurt him.
So that's why you put him so low, because he didn't come up big in crunch time.
He struggled in the playoffs, and he 0-1 in the Super Bowl. He had 9 Pro Bowls, though, as I mentioned. Second in yards, completions, touchdowns, third all-time in wins. I mean, you really don't get much better statistically than Dan Marino, but as far as a whole, he had no Super Bowls, and that I think that's the reason I didn't put him higher. How do you feel about that?
I disagree with you. Dan Marino, he's in my top 5 too, but I have him much higher. Number 5, really? Number 5? Dan Marino, he was a great player. He didn't have no type of playmakers. You could kind of argue he's kind of like a Tom Brady. He has, no playmakers and defense.
So Tom Brady won Super Bowls with no playmakers.
Okay. You can argue the same thing about Brett Favre too, but that's when I'm going to go ham on you. But anyway, he was a great player. I think he deserves to be in the top 3. I mean, number 5, really. That's what I think about him. I disagree with him about that. That's too low. That's too low for Dan Marino.
Let me just throw this out there. In Marino's lone Super Bowl, Super Bowl 19, against Joe Montana, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Marino, 29 for 50, 318 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, only scored 16 points. That's just not going to get it done in the Super Bowl against an elite quarterback. When you play the best, you have to be the best, and he wasn't. And he constantly did that in the playoffs. I mean, you make the argument about Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is great in the playoffs, and he wins, which is why...
I know, I wasn't comparing him to Super Bowl. I was comparing to no playmakers.
Well, when you're great, you make players around you great. Deion Branch, prime example. With New England, he was great. He left, he was nobody. Came back, he was great. Tom Brady made
this year
you are that great. Nobody. He had over 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's the best number 4 receiver in football. But anyway, if Dan Marino was that good, he would make those not-so-great players around him at least respectable, and he would have won at least 1 Super Bowl. That's why I have him at number 5.
So
that's my argument.
Same thing Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. Who did Dan Marino have? Name 1 receiver Dan Marino had. Name 1 receiver he had.
We're going to touch on this because we're going to have to come back, but just so you know, before Jerry Rice came to San Francisco, Montana already had 2 Super Bowls.
But he still had good receivers. Name 1 receiver Dan Marino had that you know.
Irving Pryor, who is in the Hall of Fame,
No, he's not.
Okay, what's that?